Today I am checking out a 2020 BMW 330i xDrive. We're going to go over the spec on this one here. We're going to check out some of the performance features, and we're going to hop in for a quick POV drive, and then we'll end off comparing it with my BMW M3, comparing the base model to the flagship model. All right, so to get started, this car here is going to have a base price of $42,750 back when it was new in 2020, but this one here is optioned out to $48,885 with packages and options. Today, the BMW 330i in 2025 has an MSRP of $47,950, so that is over a $5,000 increase in the base price. Holy inflation. So to start off with this one here, the exterior is going to be an Alpine White, which is a nice included color option. We're also going to have the included 18-inch two-tone wheels, very nice, and they are a very comfortable ride because they are 18-inch with a nice sidewall there. This one here is going to have the luxury package option for $1,950. I believe this was only available on the earlier models, the 2020 and the 2021s, which is going to include the Vernasca leather inside, the luxury line, which is going to include the chrome grille, as well as the paint-matched lower inlets. This one's also going to have in the luxury line the ambient lighting, very nice. Inside, we're going to have Vernasca leather and cognac with contrast stitching, which of course is included in that package. We're also going to have on this one the convenience package, a $2,350 option, which is going to include full keyless entry, which I guess was big technology back in the day. Also going to have lumbar support, active driving assist. It is not your active driving assist pro, which does the LiDAR and keeps a safe distance from the car in front of you. It is basically just cruise control. We're also going to have LED cornering lights on this one. So this has the updated headlights compared to the base model. You can see them right there integrated into the headlight housing, some nice cornering lights, as well as active blind spot detection, which is going to be that little warning triangle that lights up in your mirror. Really good little safety feature to have there. Aside from that, this one's going to have heated front seats, a $500 option, as well as the heated steering wheel, another $190 for that. Really, that's all it has. That's the whole spec, but you do have some included options on here, including power folding mirrors, active aero in the front, power sunroof, and genuine wood interior trim, as well as Apple CarPlay and Android Auto connectivity. So I will say, I want to circle back to that active aero. We're going to talk about any issues that we've had with this car over 5 years of ownership. I have a close relationship with the owner, and we have had a few issues, minor things though. So of course, this car is sitting on Pirelli Centenarios, which are really not a great tire. We have gone through many tires in this car, driving over New Jersey roads, many pothole hits and bubbles that have needed tire replacements, but that's kind of a user thing, not really a fault on BMW. However, the one thing is that this car has active grille flaps. So these flaps will open up to allow for better cooling and close up to allow the engine to get the temperature. And that broke, and it was $1,250 to fix. And if you leave it broken, you run the risk of overheating your engine. With the spec and some common issues out of the way, that's really the only big issues we've had with this car. Everything else has been great over 5 years of ownership, and the interior and the materials as well have held up really nicely. Another thing too is that this key right here, this is back from BMW's premium era. This key has some serious weight to it. It is an actual piece of metal, unlike the new BMWs that are all plastic keys. Even the key on my M3 feels very cheap compared to this. This is an actual metal housed key. Really nice. BMW should go back to this. So now we'll quickly talk about some of the performance numbers. However, that is not what this car is meant for, as we will see on our POV drive in a moment. This car has a 2.0 liter turbo 4-cylinder, making 255 horsepower. I know in the engine bay, it's going to say twin power turbo. It is not a twin turbo, it is a single turbo. All that means, it's a twin scroll turbo, meaning the turbo has 2 points of inductions based on the timing of the engine cylinders. Something BMW does to throw you off. It is a single turbo 4-cylinder making 255 horsepower, which is going to be paired to an 8-speed automatic transmission, powering all 4 wheels with BMW xDrive. This car will do 0 to 60 in 5.3 seconds, quicker than most regular traffic, and it'll do a quarter mile in 13.9 seconds at 98 miles per hour, showing it is not meant to be on a track. To carry its 3,650-pound curb weight, it comes with two 25-section tires from the factory. They are going to be run flats, the Pirelli Centenarios. This one here has Bridgestones on it after being through many sets of tires. I do not recommend them, as I've talked about on my M240i video, where those same tires were on that car. All right, now that we've got all that out of the way, we'll hop in for a POV drive. All right, let's hop in for a quick POV drive in the 330i xDrive. All right, we'll keep the door open for a quick startup sound. Very quiet on startup. Got the old BMW chime from iDrive 7. We are already warmed up from my drive over here, so let's hit the road. Okay, and we're off. So we'll do some around town driving, and then we will hit a couple on-ramps, as well as some highway driving. We'll check out Eco, Comfort, and Sport, and we'll give a verdict on each. So starting off in comfort, the steering is incredibly light, the acceleration is incredibly supple. It is an overall comfortable mode. It lives up to its name. This car is very comfortable in comfort, drives very calmly. Brakes are nice and firm. Even on this one is 5 years old. Those brakes are on the dime. Overall, this car feels very at home when you're driving it comfortably. It really likes to be driven softly, likes coasting into a stop, and it will reward you with a nice ride when you do so. I'm curious to see how this will perform in sport mode, considering the power difference between this and the other models in the 3 Series lineup. The interior of this car, especially with the Vernasco leather, is really comfortable. The surfaces are all very smooth. Everything is pretty supple in here, and over the 5 years of ownership, the interior on this car has held up very, very well, showing minimal wear and tear. And I really like the cognac. It's a nice accent color, really wakes up the car and kind of shows the personality of this car. It's a classy car, it's comfortable, distinguished, and the wood trim here also nicely accented. I just don't like the placement of the cup holders. Not so much actually the placement, more so the integration of the cup holders into the console, because I like the fact that it's in front, so you could use the little shifter here. And note, if you get a newer model, you're not going to have a shifter. You're going to have a little dial here if you get a 2023 and plus. But the good thing is that the cup holders are out of the way of the shifter, so if you do want to go through the gears with this shifter, there's no cup holder in the way. So I get it, but I think it looks so much better with no cup in the cup holder and the panel closed, showing off your nice wood trim, which has also held up nicely over 5 years of ownership. Really nice wood trim there. Infotainment on this is going to be iDrive 7. You have kind of like a hybrid cluster going on, so it's not fully digital. Most of it is fixed in place. Still really nice and tasteful. I think it's aged really well, better than the fully digital cluster that's available on this car in the later years, like 2022. I think that this is very tasteful. Tells you all the information you need. It is not at all customizable. You really can't do anything to kind of customize this. You can control everything, of course, from the steering wheel, just as you can on all the new models. But normally there's a customization feature here for your gauge cluster, and you're not going to have that in the 2020. And of course, you have iDrive 7, which has its pros and cons. The pros being that it's a true infotainment system, whereas all the new models are kind of a climate and infotainment system, such that the climate is integrated into the infotainment. This here retains full separate climate functions, which is really nice. In case this screen fails, you can still access your climate controls. And of course, they're always in one spot and always right there. So as you drive the car, you'll learn exactly where those buttons are and be able to hit them without taking your eyes off the road. However, iDrive 7 is definitely showing its age. This screen is very tiny and the resolution compared to the new displays is not all there. The infoterior itself does not have a lot of customization features. You're pretty much left with how it comes. You can reorder the widgets. It does give you a lot of useful information for the time being that this is a 2020 model and it's 5 years old. It'll tell you the weather, which is pretty cool. And it also serves as a point to check the engine status and any notifications from the vehicle. Granted, it won't tell you what the check engine light means if you have one. You have to go to a dealer for that, but it'll tell you simple things like tire pressure, oil level, coolant, all the little things just to basically keep the car in check, which is pretty neat. I have to say, I am a fan of these physical climate buttons because everything here is laid out perfectly, from your heated seats to your auto mode, to your defrosters, to your fan setting. Everything here is laid out so perfectly in the climate, and it just makes sense, whereas the iDrive 8 model that I have in my M3 just doesn't have this. It just perfectly makes sense, these buttons here. I think the perfect combination of this is the updated iDrive 8 screen, so it's nice and modernized, with the physical buttons. I think that would be amazing. This car also is packed with safety features. As I mentioned, it has blind spot assist. That's an option, but included, this one's gonna have the steering intervention. So if I try to go over the lane, the steering throws me right back if I don't use my turn signal. So it does have that, which is pretty good, especially for a car of this time. Something important to note is that from this driving experience, I am fully comfortable talking. I have full comfort in this car. And for the price range that these go for, you can get a used one of these with under 30,000 miles for it in the low to mid $30,000 range, which for everything that you're getting here and the quality of the ride, you are getting a BMW German quality ride. It is smooth. It is definitely comfortable. It rides amazing. It's really a good price point and a really good offering if you are considering purchasing one of these. We are, however, going to see soon where this car lacks. The brakes are pretty nice for this person who just cut me off. The brakes work very well, but of course, hopping right out of my daily driving M3. The brakes do not grip and grab as aggressively as you would expect, but you kind of want that in a model like this, where you're focusing on comfort because it's not an aggressive stopping power. It's a very secure stopping power that gives you confidence to know, yes, you'll stop, but not to the fact that you're going to jolt all your passengers forward if you slam on those brakes. Minimal road noise in here. Everything is well insulated. For a car at this price point, the ride is amazing. I can't stress that enough. We are now coming up to our first on-ramp, and this is probably the bumpiest road I have to drive on every day, and we'll see how this handles it. Much smoother than my M3. I can comfortably talk over these bumps. My M3 absolutely jostles me over all of this right here. Let's see if we can get it into sport mode for a little on-ramp, and if that does anything for us. I mean, fully comfortable getting up to speed on the highway. For what it is, a daily driver, a commuter car, even to take this out to dinner, to the grocery store, all you could ever want and need. It really is. It gets you up to highway speed, especially around here where there's always traffic on the highway. You're not really going to be doing any crazy pull to get onto the highway. It gets you up there. I will say though, in driving it previously in sport mode, there is a lot of turbo lag from this engine because it's a single turbo 4-cylinder. In first gear, you get no boost. You get 0 boost pressure in first gear. It is just straight 4-cylinder engine. That's all you get. When you reach about once you shift to second, you get the hit of boost. And then when you reach about 3,000 RPM, you get boost through every gear consistently. Which it is a nice punch of boost. And you also get a little blow off noise, which is pretty nice. It has sporty characteristics, but it's not what this car does best. When you are driving this thing in sport mode, and if you're really trying to accelerate and quote unquote get on it, it feels punishing. Like you're not supposed to be driving this car like that. It's not what it's meant for. Where the M3 that I have is the total opposite. When you drive the M3 in comfort mode, it feels punishing because it wants you to go faster. And when you drive it kind of closer to the limit, it feels right at home, where this is the exact opposite of that. This car, I think, does comfort really well, but the sporty stuff, not so well. You can definitely execute passes in this, but not as swiftly as I do in my M3 or as I did in my previous M240. I think I really have to give kudos here, after having some seat time in this car, to the M Lite range. That's going to be your M340, the M240, because those cars are a true Jekyll and Hyde. They do the comfort so well, but then when you put them into sport, they are so peppy and so quick, that of a sports car range, where this still feels like regular traffic. It's not much faster than every other car on the road, where the M-Lights, the M340, M240, M440 are more of a distinguished player. They can execute passes a lot more easily. If you need to really get on an on-ramp and traffic is coming up, you can gun it in those cars and they get up to 60 in a blink. This at 5.3 to 60, you feel it. It is a little slower, but again, for everyday driving, for everyday commuting, and at the price point that you can buy one of these pre-owned, I wouldn't recommend buying them new. I think they're way too expensive, but at the pre-owned price point, this is a very reasonable offering and a very good car if you're considering buying one. Moving along here, I'm not sure if it comes out in the video, but when we were doing that pull, there is a little interior rattle from the center. I'm not sure what that is, but it might be a common issue. I haven't really looked into any common issues on this car. Like I said, we've only had two things, being tires, which really can't be at fault of the car, and the active aero, which I think is a pretty big problem. Guess we could try a little eco mode. This has, I guess, what's called Eco Pro, which enables coasting. The throttle that now feels like feather light. Like I have to almost plant my foot for it to go anywhere. So there is quite a difference between sport and eco, especially going to these two back to back. In eco, you have to almost, and I'm still in manual shifting, let's go to drive, and then it really hums down. This car, one of the pros is going to be its fuel economy. That 2.0 4-liter is very, very efficient. So if you are using this for commuting, if you are taking trips with it, no worries on fuel economy. Whereas my M3 and even the M340 can tend to be gas guzzlers depending on how they are driven 100%. So I think if you're buying this to be a commuter car, it is amazing. If you're buying this to do everyday things, amazing. Very classy, very comfortable. I think it's styled nicely. If you want something with a little bit more of a sportiness element, where I feel that that is the big component that this lacks, you're definitely going to want to opt for the M340. That car is a Goldilocks. It's right in the middle. It's very sporty, very comfortable, much closer to the M3 than it is to this car. Even though it's completely styled like this car and not the M3, the performance and power delivery is much closer to the M3. Granted, you are going to pay for that. Those will go for 10 to 15 grand more in the used market than this car goes for because you're getting a much upgraded engine. But if you only care about comfort, point A to point B, you don't want anything super sporty, you know, stay out of trouble, no speeding tickets, no nothing, this is the car you want. And again, they are priced so reasonably in the used market and they are so attainable, which is why you see a lot of these on the road. They are such a popular offering. Braking into an on-ramp, excellent. The braking is smoothly applied, where I feel on the higher performance variant, the M3 and even my M240, M340 will be the same thing. The brakes are not linear. The harder you press that pedal, the more it jams you up. It's a nice, smooth, linear brake application. I like it. And in this car, also important to note, you're gonna save pretty much everywhere. On maintenance, on brakes, on tires, on oil changes, you will have a savings across the board, where if you opt for one of the higher model range cars, M340, M3, you're gonna be paying more for all of that stuff. Your cost of ownership is gonna be much higher. Go back into sport to see how we do from a dig off the light. But again, that's not what this car is meant for. You do have some customizability in sport. Let's see how this does first. Yeah, in first gear, it really does not pull that much. When you hit that upshift to second, then you get hit with the boost and it goes very nicely. But first gear, you have absolutely little to no pull. And that sport mode is pretty customizable. You can customize the steering, engine, and transmission. Pretty neat that they still have that on the base model, whereas of course on the flagship model, M3, and even on the M340, you have a lot more customization. From the dampers to the braking to the chassis control to everything you can customize. One important thing to note too is that even though this is a 2020 and kind of before the emissions regulations got really heavy, this still has an auto start stop feature, which I think is pretty annoying because it's on by default when you get into the car. If you put it into sport mode, it'll turn off automatically, which is a big plus. That's probably your only motivation to drive it in sport mode, is that auto start stop feature is disabled. But it is enabled every time you get into the vehicle, meaning every time you come to a stoplight and every time you stop, you will turn the car off, and then when you release the brake, it will start up again, which I think is pretty annoying. The sound system here is going to be the standard included system. There is an upgrade available. Fortunately, not going to play any music just due to YouTube copyright issues, but the speakers, for what they are, pretty great. It's an ample sound system, especially given the price point of this car. Overall, I would make the recommendation that if you want to get into a BMW, but you are on a budget, this is the best model to get into. I would skip the 2 Series because the 2 Series, not the Coupe, but the Grand Coupe, the 2 Series Grand Coupe has a completely different drivetrain setup. This mirrors the drivetrain of the M340 and the M3, such that it's rear-wheel drive bias with the xDrive system. The 2 Series Grand Coupe is going to be front-wheel drive bias, drive completely different. And I also feel like the X1 and X2 SUVs, which are similar in this price point, are much cheaper constructed. They don't have as premium components as this 330i sedan does, especially with the premium materials inside. So I would really consider, if you're on a budget but want to get into a BMW, this is the model to get 100% over everything else. Unless, of course, if you want a coupe, you can go with the 230i xDrive, which is very similar, just has 2 doors. This car is absolutely perfect for around town driving. It is so comfortable, accelerates incredibly smoothly. I think to note here is the distinction between the model years. So this one here, being a 2020, is going to have, as I mentioned, the hybrid gauge cluster, not fully digital, and iDrive 7. iDrive 7 will continue through 2022, which is going to have the digital gauge cluster. And then in 2023, you will have iDrive 8, which is the same system that I reviewed on my 240. And now in the new cars, you will have, I believe, iDrive 8.5 or iDrive 9, which is pretty much just an expansion of iDrive 8 with better graphics, a little bit different placement of the controls and the infotainment. But the biggest change, if you are shopping for one of these, is going to be from 2022 to 2023. I recommend the 2023 iDrive 8. It's just a more seamless layout. It will age a little bit better than this system here. All right, our POV drive here is coming to a conclusion. We are definitely going to park up next to the M3, go over some of the key styling differences. We'll check out the engine bays on the 2 cars. just highlight some of the key differences. There will definitely be a POV Drive video coming soon on my M3. I've already done a pretty much overview review, but I am still getting comfortable with the car to fully give it a POV Drive. But I am very excited for that video to come. There she is, my M3. Hello, beautiful. This one here has the backup camera with park distance control. No 360 surround view. It is available on the later models, but this is very ample with the adaptive lines. Shows you where you go and pretty much every sensor you can need. All right, what an excellent morning drive in the 330i. All right, to close it off, we'll do a really quick side-by-side comparison to the BMW M3. It is also important to note that these cars are very different in price. The M3 is about triple the value of the 330, but you could tell underneath they kind of are the same car. They have the same wheelbase, the same proportions, although the only body panels they're gonna share is the trunk and the door panels. There's not a single other body panel in common because the M3 is fully outfitted. They really are underneath kind of the same shell, but of course what's under the hood is going to be very different. So you can see here, we got the 2.0 4-cylinder on the 330i with a single intake box. Pretty basic layout, looks nice, but when we go over to the M3, you could tell that this thing is completely over-engineered with dual air boxes, full strut bracing. It's absolutely nuts, this engine bay. It is completely packed with no open space. Everything is filled up. We're on this 2.0 4-liter over here. You've got some nice open gaps where they could definitely add some more performance, but you are not fitting anything else under the hood of the G80 M3. Moving along here, the side profiles are a little different because this car, it has a kind of, I don't want to say a wide body kit, but it is a much wider body. The front is wider, and then in the rear, you're gonna have those nice fender haunch extensions, where when you look at the body lines on the 330, it is fully flush all the way down the side. There is nothing protruding to just give it kind of that classy look. The front grille, of course, is going to be the biggest difference. Even though it is highly controversial, I kind of like the front aggressive styling of the M3. And I see why BMW did this. It's because on the previous F-Series generation, the M3 and the 330 look, well, 328, 330, whatever it was, looked very similar in styling. They had the same front end proportions. Being that these two cars have completely different front end proportions, you could tell they're completely different vehicles. And then of course on the M3, even though they are filthy, you're gonna have some nice 19-inch forged wheels with a staggered wheel setup, where the 330 is going to have aluminum, squared setup wheels. These wheels are absolutely nuts. They are very aggressive. And then of course you're going to have performance brakes hiding back there, whereas on the 330, you're just going to have BMW standard brakes. Around the back, the differences also continue. You can kind of see that they both have the exact same trunk. M3 is just gonna have a rear lip spoiler on top of the trunk, but the trunk looks like it's the exact same body component on both cars. The lines match up, but the rear bumper and the rear fenders are completely different, as well as the rear diffuser. So you can see the 330 is going to have more of a bubbly look and a rounded look at the back, with a body color, minimal diffuser at the bottom with dual exit tailpipes. Whereas the M3 is going to be completely more aggressive, with a more aggressive bumper, with side haunches, full rear diffuser with quad exit exhaust tips. So this car is, of course, much more aggressive. However, the price range is definitely going to reflect that between these two cars. Overall, I want to know if you're considering purchasing a BMW 3 Series and which model you're considering. Stay tuned to see some more cars next week. Thank you for watching.